Good morning. Happy Monday. It's Michael here at Interstate PR, again, here in my home office in normally beautiful, sunny Sacramento. It's a little overcast and gray today, but hopefully the sun will peek through. Um, it's a Monday morning after a beautiful weekend, and I have a good friend of mine. Actually, he got me into the Knights of Columbus, Mr. John O'Reilly, who is a financial advisor in Carlsbad, California. John, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great, thanks. Glad to be on with you.
Thanks for coming on. Now, I should clarify, you're based in Carlsbad, California, but you can represent clients anywhere, correct?
I can, absolutely. Yeah, especially these days. We've actually been pleasantly surprised at how well our processes translate over into a virtual environment like this. It actually works pretty cool.
Yeah, that's it. That's such a really interesting point. A lot of people are realizing that you can utilize technologies to really expand your base during these kind of weird times that we're living in right now.
And even right across the street. I mean, and one of my new clients from the parish that we both attended. Sorry, just a little echo just started happening there.
Oh, sure.
Um, and he's just like literally a couple miles away, and we got on the virtual meeting, so it worked out well.
Awesome. Well, John, how are you and your family doing during all this COVID-19? You and your wife are empty nesters now, right?
We're empty nesters, and I have a really neat situation with the way my business is set up physically, because we have a fairly good sized home, and this space we're in right now is an apartment that can be rented out. It has its own separate entrance, so it's a beautiful, luxurious space, but yet it's still at home. And so I've kind of gotten a kick out of people talking about how it's been so difficult for them to adjust to working at home. And I'm thinking, wow, I was brilliant when I set this up, knowing that the virus was going to be coming.
Well, and as you know, I work from home all the time, so it's interesting for me now to have four office mates that I
Yeah,
didn't have before. I had three of them in the afternoon after school, but they were gone for like 6 8 hours a day. So
yeah,
um, yeah, COVID-19's been really, really weird how it's affected businesses, right?
yeah.
Uh, and people are moving home and that type of stuff. Is your wife working from home too right now?
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't really have an official full-time job. She has a few little niches that she does, little project management, and then she spends part-time also helping me with the business. So, she has her end of the house. I have my end of the house, and we also have an Irish Wolfhound, Bailey. Bailey's not with me right now in the office, but she's 130 pounds of pure love. And she's the tall, about tall as a Great Dane, and a great little office assistant to have around. But yes, it's really worked out well for us. It's like really no change except for just doing more things virtually instead of going out of the office to meet with clients.
Sure, sure. And you have a daughter who has graduated from college. Uh,
Hmm.
Obviously, most likely not living at home since you're an empty nester. But
Yeah,
are you able to keep in contact with your daughter, and she's doing well?
yeah, she's doing great. She has a condo in San Diego, which is not an easy thing to do for a mid-20s professional with the expense and everything. She still has a room here, and thankfully, she loves her parents and doesn't mind hanging out with us every once in a while. So she'll come and stay part of a weekend with us every so often, which we are still very blessed to have such a great daughter and who likes to come back and see us every once in a while. But thankfully in her condominium. She was traveling a fair amount, so now her travel has stopped. But she's pretty secure in her job and is actually done very well after being out of school a couple of years. She's a Pepperdine grad twice, bachelor's and a master's.
Awesome, that's great. And you know what? I'm going to go with it has a lot to do with parenting. The fact that children want to come back home. I love going to see. My mom passed away a few years ago, but I love going to see my dad. I miss the fact that we usually see my dad and sister about twice a month. We go down to San Jose once a month, and they'll come up to Sacramento once a month. And it's been a good couple months since we've seen them, especially since my dad is 74. And while he's in good health, he's at that at-risk age. So
Yeah.
it's been difficult, but FaceTime and Zoom and those type of things have made it a little easier. There's
Yeah.
nothing like a good hug though. So
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, really. That's a good point.
yeah. So let's talk a little bit about finances. Everybody's worried about finances right now. You
Yeah,
turn on. You don't even have to turn on the news. You could turn on just the local broadcast on the bottom. They've got the ticker going on about how the Dow Jones went up 700 points today, and then
yeah,
like an hour later, it's down 300 points.
yeah,
And people are looking at their IRAs and their 401ks, and they're going, "Oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to retire." But
yeah,
you're a financial planner. You've been doing this for a long time.
yeah.
Um, you know, what I mean, as long as we've known each other, I know you've been doing it. You've been doing it longer than that. So,
Yeah.
what one bit of advice would you give people right now about finances and looking at their retirement stuff?
Yeah, stay calm and stick to your long-term plan. Uh, it's so much of a psychology game. That's why I guess Warren Buffett has been so successful because he's calm. He takes advantages of when the market goes down. That's when he goes and buys some company. We can't buy companies, but we can keep adding to our 401k plans. And when the market's down, you should be celebrating it because you're getting a bargain. For those shares that you're buying in your mutual funds and your 401k. So it's all about being calm, sticking to a plan, making progress gradually over time. And I think here's one really key thing. I think that I love to share this with people because they don't think about it. You know that in the history of the stock market, the entire history of the stock market, there's never been one time that the market has declined and has not only come back to go to where it was before the decline, but then also goes on to new market highs. Every single time that's happened, I mean, every time we have a market decline based on the doom and gloom you hear on the news, you would think, oh my gosh, it's going down permanently and it's going to go to zero. But that's not the case. It always goes back up and it goes on to record highs eventually. And this will happen this time too.
Yeah, and I get we're living in this different world, like a whole new world, if you will. But I think that we see a lot of things that are trending towards um, a different normal, but going back to the way things were and will be, right? Before we went live, you were talking about individual stocks and that type of stuff, and you were giving you gave me what I thought was actually some really really good advice, and I was hoping maybe you would share that with the people viewing today about everybody's like, oh, I see airlines are going down, it's a great time to swoop in, I should buy into Delta and that type of stuff, and you were telling me a philosophy about that, and maybe you can share that philosophy with everybody.
Sure. Well, keep in mind, I mean, everybody has the right to do what they want with their money. Um, you know, and I'm a fiduciary. I take on a fiduciary responsibility with my clients when I'm investing their money for them, and so I have to really be smart and be able to sleep at night knowing that I am doing the best things with their money. And buying individual stocks is just extremely risky. It's extremely risky. Yes, can people get lucky every so often? Of course. People do get lucky. And they tend to remember that and they forget about all the times that they didn't have that luck. But when you hear about people making big sums of money in the market because they bought some individual stock or did something, very speculative, um, the way you need to think about it is that they were actually lucky. And there's actually been extensive studies done where they've tried to determine whether an investor has skill versus was it just kind of luck. And so far, they can't prove anybody has skill. It does seem to be pretty much luck. But if you buy into the market and stay with it a long time and keep adding, that's what generates wealth. And the wealth is generated by two things. People sometimes forget this. They think that you just should challenge your advisor and say, okay, here's some money, make this magically grow by 10 times or something like that. Well, it's not just what the market does, it's the saving. Because when you're saving, you're buying the market when it's high, you're buying the market when it's low, you're getting dollar cost averaging. And what develops wealth is that combination of saving and the market growing over time. It's pretty simple. The market goes up and down all the time, minute by minute, up and down, up and down. But over the long haul, it goes up. And that's really all you need to know about the market. It goes up and down in the short term, and it goes down and up if you want to put it that way, but it goes up in the long haul.
So, there are a lot of people who they're looking at their whatever it is, IRA, 401k, whatever their retirement savings, if you will. And
Right.
there's some people like me who, late 30s, early 40s going, hey, you know what? I'm taking a huge hit right now, but I've still got 20 years before I'm going to retire. Who
Yeah.
cares if I had $40,000, $50,000 at one point and now I have 10? Uh, Unfortunately, that's almost a reality in my life. Do you need to grab that?
No, I don't. I'm not going to grab. I was going to see if I could silence it. I apologize.
No, it's okay.
We'll just go in the background.
Yeah, it's a nice little background to it. See that John O'Reilly is very busy and he's a financial planner. We'll teach you how to get a hold of him later. But, so there's people like me who are like, I've got 20, 25 years before I can even think about retirement, right? So, yeah, I lost money, but it'll go back up. I have an aggressive plan anyways. So there's a possibility it's going to happen. But there are also people out there who are in their late 50s, early 60s. They're people who are getting close to being 65, 67 years old. And they're like, hey, I'm going to retire. And all of a sudden, I just lost 15, 20% of my retirement. I know you said earlier to wait it out, but for those people, what would I'm going to talk to you. This is the bottom line. And my general advice would be, and if it's hard, I get it's hard to answer that question, right? Because everybody's a specific thing. But how would you calm those people down? Maybe past hey, the market's going to go. I get you were going to retire in 6 months, but you got to add another year and a half to it. How would you calm some of those people down to get them a little more comfortable in what's going on?
Yeah. Well, one of the things is that, and I actually had a 2-minute animated video created just in the last month and a half. It's at my YouTube channel, and if you were to go to YouTube and search for market down and up or something like that, it would be one of the first ones that come up. Maybe you can even confirm that while I'm talking, but so that's a really nice video to watch because, a lot of people are kind of numbers adverse, nerds like me. And, I was in the semiconductor industry in the first half of my career. I have 2 degrees in engineering. So I'm like the, number nerd of all number nerds. And so I love looking at charts and graphs, but I'm also realistic. And I know that not a lot of people do. And that's why I created the animated video, because it really shows people in an easy to digest way what markets do over the long haul. And so the first thing I would do is I would say, try to calm down, realize that things are going to recover. And if you're in a portfolio that's either managed by someone like me who knows what to do when the market goes down, or if you're in your 401k plan and you're in a target date fund, which a lot of people are in these days, the target date fund should have automatically rebalanced when the market was going down. And what happens when you rebalance when the market has a big hit like that is that you're selling typically some of your bonds and buying some more stock when the stock is at a bargain. And because if you have a target fund that's say supposed to be at half 50% stock, and then because of that big market downturn, it goes down to 40% stock, and then you rebalance it back up to 50, you've now just added a bunch of stock at that very low temporary price. And guess what? The market's up like 28.5% since the down spot about March 23rd. And so I was, for my individual clients, I was rebalancing their portfolios from about early March. And then my last rebalance was right on that bottom spot. I nailed it at March 23rd. And so what's going to happen is, and what's happening already, is that their portfolios are growing more rapidly than they would have had they done nothing. Now, so there's really 2 things you want to do when the market goes to, there's 2 options that are reasonable when the market takes a big hit like that. One option is to do nothing. And for the people that are really just like so paralyzed with fear, that might be the best option for them, because they may find it hard even to consider rebalancing, and it's probably not something they want to try on their own. But the best option is to rebalance. The worst option that you want to avoid is to pull your funds out of the market. And I can tell you multiple stories about people doing that right and people doing that wrong during the 08, 09 time period. You want to have a real financial plan in place that's comprehensive, that looks at all the different sources of income that you'll have in retirement. It could be that your portfolio that you're concerned about, maybe that's only about half of where you're getting your income in retirement. I don't know. Like you said, every single person's situation is unique. But you want to have an expert helping you, in my opinion, and you want to have a fiduciary specifically helping you versus a broker or a registered rep, because they always have to put your interests ahead of their own interests. But you definitely want to have a real written financial plan in place, and a few numbers written on the back of an envelope. That's not a real plan. You want to have a real plan, and you want to stay on top of it over time.
For sure. And maybe for those people who have that plan on the back of an envelope or a cocktail napkin, as we always see in movies, right? What would your suggestion be to those people right now? Are they able to contact somebody like you right now and say, hey, John, I need to set something up? And how would they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they could reach out to me if they would like to. I mean, I didn't necessarily want to make being here all about me. I would think that what you want to do when you're thinking about selecting an advisor is you want to come up with a set number of a few questions. You might ask them about what are their processes, and you're trying to look for people that are just BSing you because they really just sell products and they don't really have a process, but they want to sound like they have a process. They should be able to describe what their process is, what are their deliverables of that process. You should ask them, what their licensing is. Are they fiduciary? You should understand exactly how they get paid and exactly how much they get paid, and they should be willing to reveal that, and they should be able to describe it in detail. I would recommend working with someone who's a RIA fiduciary in a smaller firm, because in a smaller firm you represent a bigger chunk of their business, and so they're going to really treat you like they ought to, because they don't want to lose you. You're very important to them. So those are a few words of advice. And by the way, you can, people like me are typically not allowed to publish written testimonials. And so the way around that is you might ask an advisor, could you introduce me to one of your clients, and so we could have a conversation. So I do that sometimes, and I just tell my client, and I tell the prospective client, please do not report back to me what you talked about, because I want that prospective new client to be able to ask all the tough questions they want about what it's like to work with me, because it's a big decision on their part, and I want them to do their due diligence and get a truthful answer back from my existing client, and to be able to make a smart choice about deciding to work with me or not. So, and if you have a same set of questions that you're asking competitive advisors, that's neat, because it allows you to compare their answers side by side, as opposed to having a totally different process with each advisor that you interview. Ask the same set of questions about what are their processes, how do they get paid, what's their licensing, things like that.
That's actually really, really sage advice. The other thing I think that you brought up that I really want to key in on is that we're talking the same thing when you shop places, right? We're talking small businesses that really help generate the local economy and that type of stuff versus large businesses. And everybody always hears about the big financial firms and how to invest with them and that type of stuff. And sure, maybe on the banking level, there are not as many small local banks. There are some. There aren't as many, right? But with investments, that's really not true. There are a ton of local small business investors. From my experience, there's a handful of them that are qualified to really do a good job for you. And having known you for a long time, I know that you are very well qualified, and you are very, very knowledgeable on the subject. But it's one of those things to keep in mind. If we're looking right now to support small businesses, whether they're restaurants or anything else, we also need to make sure that people who are providing services
Yeah.
are also being supported at this time. Which I guess the plug is, if you're not happy with what's going on right now, then maybe you need to start looking around at somebody like John who can help you, who will pick up the phone and call you and say, "Hey, I see this thing going on right here. Let's talk about that." Right? I mean, we see the commercials from the big guys, but how often does that really happen? Probably not as much as if when you're working with somebody like you.
Well, and the thing is that each time I bring on a new client, it's like I've hired a new boss. And when you're working with some big firm, they're an employee of some big company that has a profit motive. I mean, every company has a profit motive, so do we. But they have a profit motive that they're driving, and that can impact even the kind of benefits and products that you're offering to the client, because your boss could be getting some sort of an override commission. If you sell X number of annuities, they get to take their family on a trip to Bermuda or something like that. So there's all that kind of stuff going on in the background, and all that's eliminated with a firm like mine. We're an RIA. We have a direct responsibility to our clients, and we love it. All the families that are become part of my client community, they become like an extension of my own family, and it's really very nice.
Yeah, I fully understand what you're saying. As owning a small public relations firm, right? We have a handful of clients, and I talk with all of them on a regular basis, especially now during the situation. I mean, everybody kind of went into crisis mode for the first three so weeks, in the last week and a half or so. They've kind of been taking that deep breath, and it's been a lot easier to check in on them and say, like, "Hey, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Are you feeling okay? Is the family okay? Do you guys have everything you need?" That type of stuff, and they've been asking the same things. I've had some clients who've known my kids since, some of them, my kids, before they were even born. And they're like, "Hey, let me talk to your kids for like 5 minutes. I haven't seen them in months, but I
Yeah.
want to make sure they're doing okay." Right. It's that family thing. You really
Yeah.
build up that trust. It's a real big thing.
It's yeah. It's just amazing. It's so enjoyable.
Yeah, and it makes that personal connection, because then when you have that feel for a client, you're going to do even more for them, um, because you want to see them being successful at whatever you're helping them with. So
Absolutely.
that's a great segue to kind of a personal thing, if you don't mind. What
Yeah.
what do I know that you don't just sit home at your office every day, right?
Hmm.
Uh, what are some of the things that you and your wife are missing the most right now,
Hmm.
of just our regular world?
Uh,
Uh, is it going down to San Diego? Is it going to Petco Park? What is it that you guys are really missing and looking forward to once this whole thing is over?
well, I mean, yeah, going out into the world, whether it's on business activities, going to the local chamber of commerce, visiting my 401k clients and having meetings with the participants, uh, you know, um, going, I mean, gosh, you can't even go and look at the ocean or you can get arrested these days. It's nuts. So being able to go out, going working out at the gym, and then going to mass. I mean, I can't believe that we've had, mass taken away from us. I mean, we can watch it virtually. And by the way, St. Louis Casino has done a fantastic job. They have like a movie studio quality, like, mass that they do now. But all these things have been taken away from us, and it's concerning. The loss of personal freedom is concerning, but that's the thing that we miss, is having just the personal freedom to go do whatever we want to do.
Yeah, I too. I've actually been helping my church here, Our Lady of Grace, produce mass every Sunday. It's
Yeah.
so funny. I actually, this program we're using right now, I use it from my house,
Uh,
and we have people at the parish. We have a couple people there that are actually running the sound and
mhm.
the video, and they
Mhm.
bring it into the stream, and I'm actually producing what's being shown, and
Oh,
the
wow.
audio quality this week. We actually had lectors reading from their home,
Oh,
uh,
wow.
bringing them into the stream so that we didn't have just father or like, we can only have so many people in the church to do this thing, right? So then we can have 4 people in the church at one time. So
Yeah.
it was getting kind of crazy with how we could do that, but we figured out how to bring people in to have them do readings. And we even had our deacon he read the gospel this week from his house, which was awesome because he had actually set it up to look like he was in the church, like he was in a little chapel, which was awesome.
One thing we've done, you might get a kick out of, is that we've taken pictures of families and we've pasted those on the pews. So when they're doing the production at the church and they're looking out, they're seeing these pictures of families, pasted on the back of the pews, which is kind of cool.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to going back to church and seeing where's ours. So far I haven't seen it in any of the shots. So.
That's actually a really cool idea to do that, and then have people come and look for where they were sitting, virtually sitting during Mass. I know that during Easter, our pastor went and actually sprinkled the holy water on all the pews, not only to bless the church, right, but to symbolically make sure that we were symbolically that everybody was getting blessed and renewing their baptismal vows, but that also that the church was getting it as well. So it's been it's been a very difficult thing though. I know my oldest son is an altar server. And he really, he came to us and said, Dad, he goes, our kids go to Catholic school. And he said, Dad, I really want to be an altar server. I can be an altar server. Yeah, go for it, son. And he became an altar server, and he's really missing it. He's like, Dad, you're helping to do the Mass. Can't I just go? I'm like, son, we're going to get in trouble if we do that. We don't want anybody to get in trouble right now. My middle son was supposed to have his first communion this coming Sunday. So it's changed a lot of the way sacraments are being done. It's really changing our way of life. Is St. Elizabeth Ann Seton doing there's a prayer for taking for sacraments from a distance, a virtual prayer that our pastor got from, I think either was the diocese or the Vatican. Are you guys doing that as well?
Yeah. I've seen that. And what we have, by the way, is that we have the priest, the deacon, and a seminarian who's a son of our current Carlsbad Chamber CEO.
Yeah, I spoke with Brett last week, and we were talking about his son. Yeah,
son Kyle, who cannot be at the seminary and has nothing to do because they stopped the seminary. So now he gets to be on the show, so to speak, as the very high qualified altar server with the deacon and the priest. And then we have our musician, and then like one person comes in to do the readings and be like the one person representing the congregation, so to speak. And that's how we've been doing it. And it works pretty darn nice.
Yeah, we have Father. We have the person who's running the actual camera and sound, our musician, and then we have a cantor who comes in and actually sings, but then does all the readings as well. So this last week we actually got 2 of our lectors to do it from home, which was really cool because I think people are missing that interaction, right? They're missing seeing those people they know coming in and doing the readings. The people that they see every week, that they either they know them or they get to know them by them getting up there and reading. So it's I think I'm not a fan of it for sure, but I think at least we're able to offer it to people. I'm hoping upon hope that this all starts to break pretty soon. I know my kids' baseball season, it hasn't been officially canceled yet. Probably going to be canceled. My oldest son was supposed to play flag football this spring. It was supposed to start in early April or late March, and now they're saying it's going to go to mid-May. I'm hoping. I'm optimistic, cautiously optimistic, but unfortunately, I think a pessimistic point of view, even if they allow people to start going out again, they're going to say, hey, these sporting events, even kids sporting events where you've got 6 kids playing, Well, that's
Yeah.
12 kids playing right there, and if each of them has a parent out there, well, that's another 24 people, plus. Now we're looking 50, 60 people gathering just to watch one kid's football game, and they're having like four of them at a time. It's it's got to be hurting these leagues too.
Yeah. And I think that there's been so much fear spread, so much fear that even once we start opening things up, there's going to be some people that say, I'm not doing that. I don't feel comfortable. And there's going to be some people that are going to be, I think, hiding out in their homes for a little bit longer because they're just really worried about it.
Well, there's some people that probably like hiding out in their home, right? They're just going to be like, oh, well, hey, I'm so worried about COVID-19. I'm just going to stay at home for a little bit longer.
Yeah, I guess if you're a super introvert, this is like the opportunity of a lifetime, right?
Yeah. Sorry, one of my middle son is coming in. He's in the middle of doing schoolwork right now.
Did you ever get to stop and say hello?
You want to say hi, Jacob?
Hi.
Hey, Jacob. How you doing, man? Good to see you.
You doing well?
Yeah, I'm doing well.
It's Mr. John. Say hi.
Hi.
Hey, good to see you, Jacob. Take care. Come down to San Diego and visit.
We were just in Carl's. I think you and I tried to get together. I was in Carlsbad about a year ago, or maybe it was 2 years ago now. It seemed like it was a year ago. It was like 2 years ago, and it was just crazy scheduling. We love going down in that area. Our oldest son was born down there, and it's still beautiful. It's just families up here, so it makes it a little more difficult to get away. Yeah, so I think there's a lot of things going on. What are you thinking personally? When do you think this is gonna pop through? When do you think we're gonna see stuff? I know you and I spoke last week over the telephone, and I think we both agreed that they're kind of giving all these Asian countries a lot of credit for being out in front of this, but I don't think the numbers are anywhere near what they actually are coming out of those countries. But that's a different story for a different day. How do you feel this is gonna? When do you think this might come out? And any predictions on when people might see some stuff going upwards with their finances?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because that's one of the things that I kind of differentiate myself with is that I'm the person that when I'm at a cocktail party and someone says, "So, what do you think is going to happen with blank?" Right? And my response is because they expect financial advisors to be some sort of holders of a crystal ball or something like that. And some advisors will position themselves like that. But, I'm honest and I just say, you know what? I have no earthly idea. That being said, for the purposes of conversation, I think that we're really not going to get to normal until the beginning of 2021. I think it'll be a gradual thing that'll finally get going full speed in 2021. I'm not as worried about, like the second wave, as they say, because I think that they have some very good drugs out there that that already have shown a lot of promise at treating the disease. I think they'll make a new record on developing a new vaccine that'll help. And I also think that we'll get some of this herd immunity gradually occurring as well. The younger people who don't really get any symptoms, but they experience it, they get antibodies. And so now that's one less person that can spread the disease. So I think that all those things will come into effect. I do worry that the extreme isolation, because it has kept people from being exposed, especially young, vibrant people that are not going to have much issue with getting the disease. I think that that could actually cause the second wave because they've all been isolated and now they don't have any immunity. We don't have a vaccine yet. So that could cause a little bit of a second wave. But I think the main thing we need to do is protect our eldest and our people that, have underlying conditions. If we can just keep them isolated real strict and then let everybody else, come back to work and school and everything, I think we'll be fine because then all those people will get immunity over time and then they won't be able to spread it. Once they have immunity, they're not a spreader. So I think we'll be fine. But I think I'm hoping that by 2021, we'll be back to full speed. Hopefully we'll be back to more than half speed, within say 3 to 4 months or something like that.
Yeah. So I know you're a Nebraska guy, right? Cornhusker fan. And you think we're going to have college football, pro football this year?
I kind of laughed. Some people have said that we ought to put that out there as an incentive because it would cause all the football people to like really rally. It's like, oh yeah, we'll do anything you say, to make sure football season happens. The Nebraska spring game was supposed to be Saturday, this last Saturday, and they did a virtual spring game where they got together two teams of former Husker greats, and then they virtually played a game. I think the one beat the other like 60-57 or something like that. But we had 20,000 people that attended that virtual game, and normally the Nebraska people are just crazy about football, and so normally the spring game is sold out, and it was sold out already, and now that was canceled. But gosh, I can't imagine not having football. I think we will. It might be that some of them will maybe have a lower attendance because they'll force to have maybe one or two seats between every fan. I don't know how they're going to do that. It's going to be a major logistics problem. Maybe there'll be a lottery or something like that. And then I just hope that we get data, that shows that things are better. And then based on the data, they say, okay, everything's full speed. We can have full attendance at football, baseball, etc. I'm more concerned about like what you're talking about with your children not being able to participate because the kids participate in sports is such an important part of their development, physical and, mental and teamwork and all those amazing things they learn from participating in sports. And it's just a crying shame that, that's had to be stopped.
Yeah, that's really true. I know I coach flag football at the kids' school, even though they're not old enough to play, and I coach baseball. And honestly, while it's hard not to think about it being about winning or losing, it's really not. It's mostly about them learning how to play the game, fall in love with the game, work as a team, learn how the game goes, how it flows, that stuff. Even though there's adjusted rules, it really gets them into it. And we're taking kids and we're removing them for a year. So somebody who's like, I'm not really sure I want to play again, but then fell in love with it because they had a great team or they had a great coach may miss that this year, and we may lose kids who. I mean, I think back to when I was a kid in the 1994 baseball strike. A lot of people got upset about that because they loved baseball and they loved going to the games, and the sport had failed them. Now, mind you, every single other major sport since then has had stuff too, and it has had the backlash. But I really think because baseball is considered America's pastime, it really hurt because people just expect it during the summer. And now when we see it, I see people who I didn't even know were baseball fans being like, I just love to be able to turn on a baseball game.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not I usually only go to a Padres game about maybe 1 to 3 times a year, a season. But I love every single time I go. And I would be very disappointed if I'm not able to go to a Petco game this year. Especially, they're already losing the season now, at least the first part of it. And you have all those season ticket holders that are going to have first rights to attend games. They're going to be dying to attend the games. There may not be many seats left over for the people like me that only attend a few times anyway.
Yeah. Well, I have heard at least Major League Baseball has been talking about playing games in empty stadiums and doing measures to quote unquote socially distance where players are sitting in the stands and then they're called down. And honestly, as a huge 49er fan, growing up in the Bay Area, a huge Giants fan, 49er fan, I saw something the other day that the Santa Clara County health officer said, hey, look, there's probably not going to be any NFL games at Levi Stadium in 2020. Just get used to that.
Well,
so, I mean, that's a huge market revenue.
Yeah.
It generates for small businesses too, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I could see them, by the way, having a fun thing with putting pictures on the seats in the stadium. I mean, that would be a way they could get people maybe at least spending some of their ticket money. They could have their picture on there, and then during breaks and stuff, the camera could be panning across, showing the pictures of the different fans that are not able to be there at the moment. But one of the things that drives me crazy about this, I hear so many people saying, "Oh, there's a new normal," and gosh, I sure hope not. are there things being learned from this? Yes. Are there things being learned about, like, for example, my business not realizing how scalable it is using, virtual technology? That's a great thing that I'm learning from this experience. Okay. But I don't consider it a new normal that we're not going to, we're going to be isolated forever. That drives me crazy when I hear that. So I encourage everyone not to go around and say, this is the new normal. It's like, yes, we're going to learn things from it. We'll be better, but let's not call it the new normal, please.
Right. It's like we all need to take somewhat of a militaristic standpoint of view on this. Like, let's adapt and overcome. Let's
Yeah,
take the things that worked and let's implement those, and the things that didn't work, but let's figure out how to make those so they can work if we need to be in a situation again. Let's prepare for a situation. I mean, nobody saw this coming. I don't care where you are on the political spectrum. Nobody saw this coming. You can't blame this on anybody. As much as some
yeah,
people want to blame it on the president or in California on Governor Newsom, you can't blame it on these guys. They're just doing what they're taking the hand that they're dealt with and trying to deal with it. And honestly, I'm not a huge Governor Newsom fan, as you probably can well predict, but I've actually been pretty impressed with him. He's been pretty non-political through a lot of this. He's said on numerous occasions how he's talked to the president and the president has promised these things and the president has followed through on them. And I really appreciate the fact that he said that. Now, policy-wise, do I agree with his six-phase plan? I'm not sure. But at least he's taking it and he's being like, hey, this is not a political thing. This is a human race thing, and this is how we deal with it. Now, I wish he would take that and say, yeah, hey, look, wife, you are the first lady, not the first partner. But, that's a totally different subject for a different day. But I do appreciate how he has been very non-political about the whole thing. And I appreciate that they, having worked for elected officials, they're in such a hard position at this moment in time, right? They're trying to do what they think is best for the people they represent with the information that they're given, right? And no matter, they can't make anybody happy. They're taking blows from their base supporters. They're taking blows from the other side. They're getting support from the other side that they would never thought they would. They're getting support from maybe base supporters who are just base supporters because of party preference or whatever. It's just a hard spot to be in for elected officials right now. It really is. It's such a
not
hard
a hard line to walk. I mean, you have the fear of the disease and the fear of the loss of human life, combined with the fact that, being poor doesn't exactly, or, doesn't help people do very well either. So you got to balance this economic thing. And then, I also just kind of question, how big is this, when you talk about this being the coronavirus, issue. I mean, I think it's been made to be this big when maybe really it was only this big. So I'm not saying it was not significant. I definitely was significant, but I think it was blown up to be more significant than it really needed to be. It'll be really interesting to see the studies on this going forward in time to see, just how bad it really was or wasn't going forward.
Yeah, it will be interesting. The one thing I find really positive about this, I see more and more people, especially with like producing mass for the church, more and more people coming in. I mean, we kind of take the number of streams that we get and we multiply that by 2.5, knowing that there's probably at least 2 people at home and you have families watching. We're seeing 400 or 500 people on streams coming in and watching mass on a weekly basis, and that's live. And then we're rebroadcasting it later in the day, and we're seeing another 100 to 200 people streaming it. So we weren't seeing those numbers of people actually coming into the church. Our church is small; it can only hold about 250 people, but we're getting 400 people watching at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, right? I'm seeing more people walking down the street. Yeah, they've got their mask on or whatever, but they're saying hi. And people I've seen walk down. I mean, I work from home. I see them walk down the street all the time. Sometimes I'm out front checking the mail, and they just walk right by with their head down. They don't want to interact with people. We're seeing. I mean, you saw that huge at first. You saw that huge group of people going out and hoarding everything and stocking everything. And now all of a sudden, you're seeing people like being more conscious of other people around them. I, we go to my wife and I have a date once a week. We go to the grocery store. It's very romantic. My mother-in-law doesn't live very far from us, so she'll come over, hang out with the kids. We go to the grocery store. But at first, when this all happened, people weren't doing that whole social distancing thing. They were complaining about stuff, but now people are keeping they're 6 feet away, standing on the little things that the stores are putting out, but they're still interacting and talking with people. They're being really polite and kind. And it's something that I saw as a kid growing up that I haven't seen for years that really makes me feel good about humanity again. And honestly, as Catholics, I see it as like something that we've been wanting and striving for a long time, and it's coming back, and it feels good.
Yeah.
It feels
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, in the neighborhood, you see the people that normally would have gone to work and been gone all day. They're now all stuck at home, and so now during the day when you go for a walk, or at the end of the day, beginning of the day, middle of the day, whatever, you're running into neighbors that you never saw before, or very, very seldom, and it's nice to from across the street, oh hey, how you doing, and and then and just what's going on in your life, and is everybody safe, and what anything I can get for you, that kind of stuff. It's kind of cool.
It really, really is. And I think, those are I think we can all, if we look at the positives of things, and we look at the successes we had as opposed to the failures,
Yeah,
that will come out better for all this, whether or not it was necessary, whether or not we got all the right numbers at first. I still, as I said earlier, I still contend that people are saying, "Oh, China did a great job." If you've got 18, almost 19% of the world's population, but
yeah,
less than 2% of the fatalities and less than 4% of the actual cases,
it
uh,
does make sense. Yeah,
something doesn't jive there. It just
yeah,
doesn't. Those numbers just can't be accurate. I mean, and it's just weird to me that they would even
yeah.
make that statement.
They control the information, so yeah,
Yeah, I mean that's what you get with a socialist regime, right? They control everything that comes out and
yeah,
everything that goes in. They control that too, right? I don't think they're sharing the actual numbers, which I think is a disservice to the rest of the world. And I hear all these people saying, "Oh, China's going to be this superpower after all this," and honestly, I don't think I don't think that's the case. I
yeah,
think that eventually there's going to be some countries that are going to say, hey, wait a second here. And it may not be the World Health Organization, it may not be the United Nations, but people are going to start talking, and they're going to be like, hey, it's crazy that this started in
mhm,
one of your provinces, one of your smaller provinces.
uh-huh,
It spread so quickly throughout the rest of the world, but you guys were able to contain it. If you were able to contain it, why weren't you telling the rest of the world what was going on,
yeah,
how
mhm,
you contained it? And B, if if A didn't happen, then why weren't you giving us the real numbers so the rest of the world could prepare? Right?
yeah,
We have a priest friend who's in Rome right now. I
yeah,
had him on a week and a half ago, and he
mhm,
talks about how it just spread like a wildfire after a Chinese company is building a connecting road from Milan to some rural areas in Italy.
oh,
And Lunar New Year came around. All these Chinese workers went home to China,
uh,
and there was not much of the of COVID-19 in Italy at the time. They came back from China, and about a
mhm,
week and a half later, that's when the spread started happening.
wow,
So, I mean, we live in a crazy world. There's so many buzzwords that are being thrown out there nowadays. I think the word of the year is unprecedented.
yeah,
Everybody's using it right now, or uncertain and unprecedented. Um,
yeah,
but it's definitely interesting, and I hope you're right, John. I hope that this is not a new norm, that normal is not changing. It's so hard to pinpoint what normal is anyways, right?
yeah,
But if we can get into back into the routine that we're all used to in the near future, and take these things, as you say, that work well, and start utilizing them, I think that'll be great, and we'll be in a better spot.
yeah, I
So
agree.
I want to be conscious of your time.
Yeah,
Uh, I'm sure we could probably sit here and talk for hours.
yeah.
But is there anything else that you wanted to add on any front, whether it's professionally or personally, to kind of let people know during this time, and if people are looking for a financial advisor, how can they get a hold of you to kind of move down that road, especially during these what are we calling uncertain times, unprecedented times?
Yeah, yeah. Well, my name is John O'Reilly, and it's O'Reilly Wealth Advisors is the company name. And of course, always ready and willing to talk with people. And I give at least one free meeting before, you would need to make a decision about, or we both make a decision about whether or not we want to work with each other. And I'm happy, especially at this time, to offer, free help. I mean, if someone doesn't want to hire an advisor, but they're wondering what to do with their 401k plan, I'm more than willing to talk with you about that, within reason, of course. And I also want people to know that one of my give back ministries, let's call it, back during the 08-09 debacle, the deep recession we had then, I started a group called the North County Job Transition Ministry, and we provided very high quality job search training and strategy, information to people to help them have a better shot at either getting rehired or finding a better job during that difficult time. And so I can do that virtually. It takes about 60 to 90 minute conversation. I have a handout that I leave you with as well, and I'm basically giving you the equivalent of probably $5,000 to $10,000 worth of what you would pay a high price consultant, like people will be sent to if they're lucky enough to get this when they're employed and they get laid off and they get a package from their employer. This is that same type of high quality training. It's just done in a very time efficient way. Instead of going to a number of classes over a week, I condense it down to, about 60 to 90 minutes. And, as I do more and more of these, I'll just schedule them maybe once a week, and anybody can just hop on and get the free job search training. And, after that, of course, it's up to you to work on it hard to make it happen. But I just offer that to anybody. And I just offer my listening. If anyone has concerns about the market, if they know people that are really worried about the market, I have some really nice tools to help them. I have that video that I mentioned that will help calm them down, because they say that, financial stress is one of the biggest areas of stress that people have in their lives. And if you can get rid of a little bit of that stress, that's a really good thing. And I'm very happy to help with that. I made this video. I might as well have as many people see it as I can to get the benefits of having to calm them down a little bit about the market gyrations. So I'm just there to help. I'm here to be a giver. And if you want to talk to an advisor, of course, in a serious mode, because you are looking to possibly get some, professional help, obviously I'm here. I'm ready to help you. But I want to start off with, I'm just willing to help anybody with practically about anything. I'll connect you to the right people, whatever it takes to help you get to a better situation.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time this morning, John, to hop on. I'm glad to hear that you and your family are doing well. I really appreciate some of the words of encouragement and some of the sage advice that you've given this morning. And just wanted to thank you again for taking the time to come on today and to give some advice. In the comments of this video, I've posted John's website and his telephone number that you can get off of his website as well if you're looking at reaching out to him for any information. And that video you were talking about, John, is that on your website? I was kind of
on the website, but if you go to YouTube and search once you get to YouTube, and if you look for, I believe it's markets down and up, you put that phrase in there, okay, that video should come up as the top result. Also, if you email me and I respond to your email, a link to my YouTube channel is at the bottom of my email. So in fact, if you have one of my emails right now, you could probably grab the link off of there and stick it on this. This is being shown on Facebook, is it?
Facebook and YouTube.
Okay.
So it's on both the Facebook and YouTube page
Gotcha.
that we have here for Interstate PR. And I do have that email. I shut my email off so we don't hear ding, 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 ding left and right. But I will make sure that I get that up on both those channels as well. I'll put the link to the YouTube videos in case people are interested in it. But again, I really want to thank you for those watching out there. I appreciate you guys tuning in today. Like I said, I've known John for a long time. John got me involved with the Knights of Columbus, which has been a blessing for my life. If you're a Catholic gentleman out there and you've been thinking about it, it's a wonderful thing to do. It's not just a ministry for men either. It's really a family ministry. My kids and my wife get involved all the time. Even crazier when I was the financial secretary and I had two really, really young kids. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, thanks for doing
The Advocate was a lot easier right after that. But I mean, if you are thinking about it, if you ever thought about it, it doesn't matter what age you are, but it's a great group of guys. It's a monthly meeting. If you can't make it, it's not that big of a deal, but they're always there to support you. I know when my when my first son was born, there were several members of St. Elizabeth Ann Seton's council who came by my house and dropped off food for my wife and I. When my middle son was born, the same thing. We were in Sacramento, and I was part of the Divine Mercy Council at the time, and they set up for like 3 weeks straight. We didn't have to make dinner, and then honestly, we met a couple who became very, very close friends of ours. And they are the godparents to my youngest son. And when he was being born, she left her job, said, "I'm out of the office the rest of the day," and came and watched our kids as our youngest son was being born. And then they came to the hospital. Or actually, she watched our oldest son as our middle son was being born, and then helped out my dad and sister watch our kids. When the youngest was born. So yeah, great organization. I have everything to thank John for being part of it. I really appreciate it, John. I also appreciate you taking the time again this morning to come out and do this. And have a blessed day. Stay safe and stay healthy.
My pleasure, and thank you so much. And God bless you, Michael, and your family.
You too, John. Have a great day.
All right, bye-bye.